This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by Adam Morallee here over Zoom. Adam, appreciate your time this evening. And how is everything, mate? You all good?
All good, Josh. Yeah, all good.
Very good to hear. We'll dive straight into things. It's been a big week already, and it's only Tuesday evening. But yesterday we saw the announcement of Queensberry's first show on the Zone, and as the name states of the show, it's a heavy impact. Joyce, your man, tops the bill against Dillian Whyte. I remember when we spoke a few weeks ago, and you said he'll be in a big fight a matter of weeks after March 1st, and just over a month later he'll step into the ring as the main event once again. How excited are you for this fight just to be over the line?
Yeah, look, I love Joe. Like I've been managing Joe since the start of his career for coming on 7, 8 years now, and I just want the best for him and the biggest fights. And Queensbury have delivered for Joe Joyce over the years. He's fought Dubois, he's fought Parker. The Chisora fight when he fought him last year, people thought was, probably people didn't give it the credit it deserved. Chisora's gone on to show, despite the number of losses he's got, what a fighter he is. And I think Joe Joyce, Dillian Whyte's a big fight anytime. I think it's the biggest fight, biggest heavyweight fight for sure outside of Riyadh.
Absolutely. What other names were you looking at for Joe when looking at giving him another big fight following
We
March
talked
1st?
about Lawrence Okoli. We talked about Fabio Wardley. Someone was telling me yesterday that Joe Gallagher, who, by the way, I've got maximum respect for, um, was upset that Joe pulled out of Lawrence Okoli, but it was someone we talked about. It was never um, set in stone by any means. And when the Dillian Whyte fight came along, for me, from a risk reward perspective, I have the highest respect for Lawrence Okoli. I think he's a danger, and I'm not underplaying Dillian Whyte, but Dillian Whyte's really, I mean, that Povetkin loss has been scratched off his record, I think. So he lost to Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, beaten Joseph Parker, fought for the world title. He's an elite, he's a top level opponent. And so for me, that the risk reward on Dillian Whyte is pretty much as good as it'll get for Joe out there.
For Joe, obviously, we know last year was all about that rebuilding from the Zhang defeats, and that Chisora defeat did have a lot of people pushing and putting the point out there. Maybe this could be it for Joe.
Yeah.
Another big fight here. If it isn't to go your way, will you be looking at advising Joe on what's next?
So I think there's the two separate questions, aren't there? Whether Joe wins or loses from a health perspective, if he shouldn't fight anymore, he shouldn't fight anymore,
Mhm.
whether he wins or loses. So for me, it's not to do with the win or loss here. If Joe's healthy and he can box, he can lose this fight and fight on, right? If he's healthy. But if he's not healthy and we feel for whatever reason it's time to go, if he wins, he should not continue. So I think connecting the win loss with the do or do not retire, I don't think is the correct way to look at it.
Do you feel it's more down to the performance as well and how he's looking in
Absolutely.
the build up?
Absolutely. I think it's about the performance for Joe. We've got to see what Joe's got. Joe's really thrown himself into this camp. If you remember when he fought Parker in September 2022, he 6 weeks beforehand had a fight. And that was good for Joe Joyce. He likes that. We're building this into, we're looking at it as one big camp. We're not overlooking that guy, but obviously the opponent on March the 1st is not the same as Dillian Whyte. And we're trying to build it in and give Joe that in ring experience, try things out, and get ready for April 5th.
Do you feel you're taking the correct steps with this move? Obviously, we saw the Cash Ali fight last year and then the couple months layoff into that Chisora fight. Do you feel having that quick 8 rounder on March 1st will definitely have a big benefit going into that April 5th
Oh,
date?
look, it was something I sat down with the team on, um, with Steve Broughton, with Cam Goff, with Juan, and we chatted about what was best for Joe and Joe, of course. And between us all, there are risks all the time. Joe gets cut on March the 1st. People will be like, you're an idiot. What are you doing? But we're looking at all the risks and the rewards, and we've determined as a team it's the right move.
With Dillian, it's been a very stop-start couple of years for him. A lot of inactivity, especially at that top level. While the two fights last year, do you
Yeah.
feel that his inactivity at the top level may come into play on the night?
I think you find that with people like Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, and to some extent Joe Joyce, recent form can be affected by a whole number of things. That old adage about class being permanent. These guys have been there and done it, And so we're not taking Dillian Whyte lightly at all. I think, the last couple of years he hasn't fought that much, okay, but he's still an out and out quality fighter, one of the best heavyweights in the UK. Simple. And it's going to be a tremendously tough challenge for Joe Joyce.
Now at the press conference yesterday, Dillian Whyte implied that Joe Joyce is punchy and punch drunk,
Yeah.
especially with some of the comments he was making. How do you feel about Dillian using comments like that to promote the fight?
Look, I think Dillian's doing his best to promote the fight. I think if you saw them before and after, they're friendly, right?
Mm.
Joe Joyce, it's something that's been spoken about a lot. Brain health, from my perspective, Joe's my guy, and that comes before anything else. But I've known Joe from the beginning, and unlike other people who make jokes about, he's loading and all this stuff, Joe Joyce is the same now as he was then. He's a highly intelligent individual with a fine art degree. And yeah, okay, he's not the quickest kind of repartee and back and forth. He made fun of himself in a trash talk video about that. He is who he is. And I think Dillian's just trying to sell the fact that to me, there's no bad malice attaching to it. He's saying he can put coffee to sleep. He's trying to do it. But I think Dillian has the highest respect for Joe Joyce. He's a silver medalist in the Olympics, WBO interim, beating Joseph Parker, Daniel Dubois. He's got respect for him, and likewise, it's mutual.
Absolutely. And just looking at a couple other talking points away from this fight, just quickly, we saw Junaid Bostan in action at the end of January in an English title fight against Bilal Fawaz in a night, a very, very close contested bout between the two, which resulted in a draw. Just first of all, how has Junaid dealt with the draw? How's he doing now?
Yeah, look, Junaid's a young fighter who, for the first time, experienced not winning, and he wasn't happy with it. He wasn't happy with it. It's not good enough for him. He acknowledges it's not a loss, but it's not what he wants, and it's giving him a fire. And you do what all good teams do. You go back, you watch the performance, you understand what happened, and you build and you improve. Fawaz, I think that was a career best performance from him. I think Junaid certainly feels he can be better. And we look forward to that one happening again, actually.
Will that fight be next for Junaid?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, nothing's been agreed. Eddie really wants that fight. Gonna have to talk to Matchroom about it. But I see it as a good next fight for Junaid.
Junaid also stated in the post-fight interview that he would like to see the fight be a headliner in Sheffield. Um, do you see that opportunity arising, or do you feel it can be high up on a bigger show, maybe?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Ultimately, it's up to the promoter, isn't it, to look at it. I think Junaid is a huge talent. I think he sells tickets. I think he speaks brilliantly. I think he does deserve, in the near future, to be headlining a show, smaller show. Whether it's this one or not remains to be seen.
Absolutely. Just lastly as well, Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen too. A hell of a lot of talk still about that fight they shared in December. I saw an interview with Jamie Moore earlier saying that supposedly the deal was done on Johnny's side of things. Is that true? Can you confirm that?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. Not done at all. I mean, as a team, we're discussing it. We're discussing it with Matchroom, but it's one option for us. I mean, look, people have been talking about the fight lots. Johnny won the fight. Johnny won the fight. He's got nothing to prove. I think, on the other hand, Dave Allen, I don't know what other options he has. So, yeah, it's definitely on the list to consider. It's one fight we're considering, but this is a guy who, almost sells out arenas, can sell out the copper box fighting whoever he wants. So he's the A side and he'll fight who he wants.
So the deal was not done at all.
100% not done.
Fair enough. I spoke to Dave Allen last week in Sheffield ahead of one of his fighters taking part on the GBM show. And asked him about the rematch. And obviously, we saw the day before that as well that he was on Sky Sports and said that he feels he's shown Johnny Fisher's ceiling in that fight. And in a rematch, he 100% believes he can stop him, to quote him correctly.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
I think Dave is saying things to elicit a reaction in order to try and get the fight. That's what I think. Um, I think Dave was beaten. I think if you watch it back, the old man Johnny, I think he hit him in the back of the head illegally about 30 or 40 times. Um, and he's got nowhere else to go other than Johnny Fisher rematch. So he's going to go on TV and you know talk, say stuff to try and get it, to try and goad him. That's your level. I'm going to beat you. Okay, fine. We'll make the best decision for us. We can sell 7,000 tickets fighting whoever we want. Don't need to fight Dave Allen.
Just lastly, we know Johnny has been away and taken some time out from boxing after that last fight. I spoke to Mark Tibbs literally a couple of hours ago, and I said to him, "There's one thing about a fighter saying that they've got balls and they've got heart, but then there's one thing in showing that on the night, especially on the stage that Johnny was on. How proud were you? Take away all the controversy afterwards. How proud were you to see Johnny stand in there and give every bit he had in him?"
Absolutely. I mean, we had a session as a team recently. We rewatched the fight, and incredible performance from Johnny. I think Dave, um, legitimately, by the way, hit him on the ear, and that totally did his balance. I think from round 3, 4 onwards. So Johnny was on probably on unsteady legs for 6, 7 rounds, and to dig deep, to grit, bite down his gum shield like that, incredible. And by the end, if you watch that 10th round, which I think Johnny won, they're both as equally destroyed as the other. He went the full 10. Dave, look, to give him his credit, properly old manned him, properly gave him the fight of his life. And Johnny stood up to it and won.
Fair enough. Adam, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this evening and look
Cheers,
forward to
Josh.
catching you again soon.